Hey there, it's been a while, and depending when I post this video, probably somewhere between, 1 and 2 years since I've actually posted a video. So I think it's time for a little bit of an update, and we'll start with what I'm doing right now. We are all crammed in the car right now with myself, Barley, our baby, who's not really a baby anymore, Laura, and we are on our way to West Virginia to hopefully do some climbing. But we'll give you more updates when we actually get to wherever we're going, so hang tight. All right, so we are all settled into our Airbnb here in New River Gorge in West Virginia, and I figure I'd give a little bit more of an update. So the last video I actually recorded, I think I recorded about a year ago, and I've hopefully posted that by now, but who knows how long ago it will have been when you actually see it. But in that video, I kind of ended on a bit of a high note, expectations of maybe continuing to get stronger or maintain my level of fitness, and that kind of really hasn't happened. It's been chaos, and if you're a parent or no parents or just no kids in general, you're probably not remotely surprised. It's been good chaos, but definitely chaotic. And climbing has started to look more like once a week, once a month, once every 2 months kind of thing. I'm comparing it to intermittent fasting, but like the climbing version of it, keeping my body on its toes, and sometimes I'm like shocking it with a ton of climbing a week, or sometimes I'm giving it a break for a month and recovering fully. With that said, I have managed to get outside and climb a little bit this year, both locally, and I also did my first ever climbing trip. All of the other climbing trips that we've done over the past few years have always been en route to somewhere else, or to visit somebody, or for some other occasion or event. And this was the first ever dedicated climbing trip that we took to Las Vegas. So I'm excited to kind of put that footage together, and I'll probably include it in this video. I think I'm climbing similarly to that video and maybe even a bit before that. So I'm excited to kind of be here and hopefully get some climbing in. But let's get to some climbing. And by get to climbing, I mean time travel back about half a year ago, rapidly pack, get on a plane, and fly to Vegas for the first time ever with friends. You know, that climbing trip that I just referenced. Apparently Vegas has some cool attractions or something like that, but I was just here to climb with friends I hadn't seen in a long time and touch sweet, sweet sandstone with my under-conditioned fingertips. My focus was definitely on climbing and seeing the crew, so I decided to leave my camera at home for this trip, and all the footage is actually courtesy of my phone, so it's kind of haphazard and, yeah, a little bit limited. We did hike around and see some of the beautiful surroundings because, well, look at it, how couldn't you? But yeah, that was the closest I got to any tourist activities. And yeah, let's be honest, I was a tourist, just one that was more interested in the natural features and all that comes with it, including this guy. This guy needs to slow down. But as you know, I was here for one thing and one thing only. To sweat off those aforementioned sandstone holds because it was mid-May and definitely not prime climbing season. Hovering around 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius for my fellow metric users, it was definitely not optimal in the desert heat, but honestly, we kind of just made it work, and it was definitely worth it, without a doubt. Coming out of the hectic months that had just passed, basking in the sun, taking in the sights, and yeah, eating some wind-blown sand was kind of just what I needed, and I think my friends would say the same. Minus my one friend who got super sick on the way down. The universe owes him another trip here, and I hope I can be there for it. I'm not sure if it was just the vibe, but all these problems felt super fun, and having never climbed here previously, it was cool just being here with fresh eyes, figuring out the beta together. Grades seemed to matter less to me, as they felt as arbitrary as ever, and my climbing was as rusty as, well, the iron oxides that make this rock red. I do feel like heights and top-outs were my kryptonite, but that's not really anything new, and there'll be more on this later. I will let the rest of the footage play through without much commentary, but I will say this. What a surreal setting to pull in some rocks with friends. made doing something so simple feel so pure and boundless. I'm not gonna lie, there were moments here where I kind of just felt like a kid again.
Yeah!
That's fun. As you saw, we hit up some classic problems. Some you've probably seen many times before, all during the day and at its peak temperatures. That included the Pearl, featured here. But as we began to discover, some holds definitely seemed affected by conditions. So we packed it in, hiked out, and decided to discover what it felt like to climb in the desert at night. Between the drastically better conditions and the ethereal ambiance created by the constellations above and the vastness of the desert, this was definitely an epic experience, and one I won't forget. The desert night also opened up the opportunity to revisit the Pearl and have another real go at it. Here, I got to spend some time laying on my back at the top, looking at the stars with my fellow Sentionists. Looking up, I couldn't help but think about my friend Matt. Red Rock was his last climbing trip. I took this moment to appreciate where I was and who I was with, something I often forget to do. In what seemed like a blink of an eye, it was our last day. I had tried and figured out the moves on Monkey Bar Right and Alexerciser my previous days, so I wanted to give both a fair shake. But on the way to Kraft this morning, the clouds looked mean, which is not pictured here in this footage, and sure enough, it started to rain there. And for those who don't know, there are strict rules not to climb in the rain or when the rock is wet, consistent with most climbing areas. That's how you damage holds, don't do that. So we drove to where the clouds hadn't made it yet and went on an adventure, and by adventure I mean more or less off-roading and hiking far too long with crash pads on our backs to climb this V2, our final boulder of the trip. You keep left on the Arete, the right side is a V0, and this was a V2. The hardest V2 I think I've ever climbed. More on that later. And that wraps up my non-Vegas trip to Vegas. Lots of memories I still think about a lot, but as you may have noticed, Laura and my son stayed home, so I was excited to reunite with my family. This was one of the reasons I was so excited about this trip to West Virginia, because it was our first attempt at a family vacation together, and to make it extra stressful, our first road trip as well. It was also the first opportunity to see how managing a toddler and climbing might go. More on that right now. Honestly, he was pretty good as I climbed on these slab problems in the bridge area. This was also one of the hardest V2s I have ever climbed. I don't know if it's because of the really bad high feet or sitting in a car for a day, but this thing was not kind to me. I actually think it was probably the hardest problem on this face, even if the grade doesn't match that statement. On the back, there were also some fun little problems, but at this point we were past our son's patience threshold and had to call it quits. So not entirely sure if I can call it a successful day out with the toddler, but at least I got to touch some rock and top out on some boulders. Alright, so attempt number 2 to climb out here. The other day with toddler and puppy, who's in the back seat here, didn't go that well. A bit of climbing, but lots of fun family stuff, so all in all it was pretty good. But now we're going to try to go out and climb some things here at the Meadow Boulders, which I think has some pretty high quality climbs, so I'm going to test them out and see how it goes. So let's just get out there. Her and I have finally made it to the first boulder. A couple of V0 warm-ups and maybe some stuff on the other side. Let's get to it. This boulder was the first year approach at the upper part of the Meadow Boulders, and perfect for warming up on. How convenient. There are likely a ton of variations of the established problems here. You can play around on a variety of moves as you warm up. I immediately felt rusty on my top outs, foreshadowing my climbing to come. This problem was super slopey at the top, and the top out, which is not really visible from this angle, was on an incline and boxed in by a tree, so a bit tricky with the addition of me not knowing where the downclimb was, hence my body language at the top. This problem is Circle of Life, a cool feature with a name that inspired me to try it. I definitely wanted to send this thing, but the top out theme continued, hard with seemingly bad feet, with only 2 pads and a pretty large drop off after you come around the arete, and only my dog to spot me. This was no small feat for my fearful brain, but alas, I flailed over the top. This problem was super cool, but my pretty exhausted triceps were not completely prepared for the top out. I would love to try to send this cleaner some other time. And the last problem was just around the corner. This is Mechanical Sensei. I tried it earlier with limited success at the top. My lack of endurance was starting to show, but thanks to a little rest and some beta from another climber passing through, shout out to Dr. Wes, I gracefully sent this super fun problem and wrapped up my day on a high note. Let's go. Do you know the way? Yeah, let's keep going. We spent the rest of our time trying to unwind, and here's a little glimpse into that. Are you guys best friends? And in another blink of an eye, this little climbing trip was wrapped. Our time here was interesting. I've traveled across the New River Bridge literally over 60 times in my life en route down south, but never stopped here as a climber. It is weird for a place to feel so familiar, yet so new again. And I think crossing over this bridge will feel a bit different on our next trip, whenever that might be. And speaking of traveling south, that's where we were heading. So we said farewell to Fayetteville and hit the open road yet again. Where do you want to go? In a similar theme, the focus here was not through my lens, but I couldn't resist capturing Barley, our Portuguese Waterdog's first time at the actual ocean, as well as our sons. Needless to say, they both loved it. Now you might think the climbing is over for this trip, but my friend, you would be mistaken. There was one final prestigious outdoor climbing destination that we just had to hit up. All right, so we are wrapping up our family vacation / road / climbing trip, and we are heading all the way back home. But we're actually not done climbing yet because we heard there is a park called Boyce Park in Pittsburgh, which is en route, that has an outdoor bouldering wall. So we're gonna hit that up and try to get one last climb in before we call it quits. So we will see you there. In all seriousness, this was an awesome facility, and the community should be super psyched to have it. And a big round of applause from me to the municipality who greenlit this, and those involved in the project, especially the route setters, because these problems were super fun. And to wrap up my mini Yelp review, roaming children who don't quite know climbing gym etiquette was one of the only downsides to this short visit here, but that kind of comes with the territory and should be expected. This was just a short stop to stretch our legs and, I guess, flex my muscles before the last leg of our trip home. I believe all the problems here were V6s and 7s. If you've climbed here, let me know if you put chalk on the same holds as me, and if you use the same weird beta that I did to send these problems. And here is where I got flash pumped from all the non-stop climbing, and that officially is the end of the climbing and our trip. Bye-bye. If you've been following along, that should more or less bring you up to speed. My life outside of work has rightfully so been more focused on my family than anything else, and you're probably not at all surprised to find out that the Vegas trip actually happened well over a year ago, and New River Gorge is rapidly approaching a year as well. So as I sit here today talking with you, hopefully I can edit all that together and post it quickly so it doesn't sit around any longer than it already has. I really do want to try to blend my family and my hobbies like climbing and making videos together more seamlessly so they don't feel as disparate of things as they do right now. But it's a little bit hard, and I want it to happen naturally and not put too much pressure on myself to do so. So I'm just kind of taking it day by day and not stressing about it. With that said, I do definitely have some goals that I want to focus on and record and share with you, but I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to weave them into my life right now, and I don't really want to put something out into the universe until I've kind of figured out some of those details. So stay tuned for whatever I'm rambling about. And speaking of rambling, I do hope to post more frequently, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I really think I can do that. So like and subscribe if you want to see some of those bigger things I have on the horizon and not miss them, and we can kind of continue on this chaotic journey together. So hopefully I'll see you sooner rather than later. Take it easy and peace out.